All right, so let's see if we can't finish up chapter 6. It's hydropower, and if you've been following the news at all, you might have heard that a couple years ago, Northwestern Energy bought the dams. So if you remember, very early in Energy 101, we talked about the three categories of energy that we use. So there's primary energy, that's what's sitting out there in nature. That's what Shramsky was worried about. We're draining the Earth's chemical battery. There's secondary energy, which is electricity flowing through the pipes, typically, or natural gas flowing through a pipeline, or something like that. It's on its way from nature to your house or place of business or other technology. And then there's the useful energy, is what we're doing right now, running our computers, running our projectors, et cetera. So Northwestern Energy is more or less in charge of secondary energy. They sit between you and Mother Nature. But what they did when they bought the dams, they said, we will be primary and secondary. We're gonna have that technology sitting there so that we're not going to be, victim is the right word, but we're not going to be we're not going to be at the mercy of the person running the dam, who can sort of charge us based on whatever the market will bear, and it's a free market. On that note, there's one other thing that just came up a couple days ago. Is we've been talking about we will talk in more detail about the cost, the price of these different energies, and I also mentioned the fact that On-Site Energy is one of our industry partners. They built the solar PV trailer for us, and we have this new power pod. It's kind of a plug-and-play refrigerator solar, and we're going to sell it for $4 a watt. And the competitor said, no, don't sell it for that much. It's too expensive. But, how does that work? Would Jaguar sell? No, Ford, don't sell your cars for that much. It's too expensive. Mm-hmm. So somehow the capitalist mindset in renewable energies isn't quite there yet, I guess. And so you're always, again, is it too cheap? Is it too expensive? But, what other industry would you have competitors saying you're charging too much? Well, if you charge too much, you're charging yourself out of a job, right? So that argument just doesn't hold any water. This is my point. So, but getting back to the point that Northwestern Energy is in fact buying the dams so that they can control the prices and meet their renewable energy goals, standards, limits, et cetera. So a lot of times you'll see in Northwestern Energy's literature the relatively large fraction of energy that comes from their renewable portfolios, the majority of that being hydro. Okay, so last week we started getting into it's 5. I skipped ahead one, chapter 5. That's right, biomass is chapter 4. So we covered this last week, and we started to look at England's hydro system. We also talked a fair amount, if you remember, about the pumped hydro at Gordon Butte. We looked at that. And just something you might want to throw into your notes, the Gordon Butte project was approved for a $1 billion sale. It's a 400 megawatt system, so that's right around $2.50 a watt, relatively cheap. I mean, you can now in some places get solar on your roof for $2.50 a watt. So right there, you can sort of talk about solar being on grid parity with micro hydro. You would likely not do this in your backyard. I've had people come up and say, gosh, Professor Layton, why don't I put little microturbines on the downspouts of my house? Well, yeah, you're going to need a relatively large tank sitting on your roof, and if you're lucky, you might be able to charge your cell phone once a month with that. It just doesn't scale that well, is the point. Okay. So here's a shot of what this might look like, where you've got your reservoir upstream. This is a little cross section, so we've kind of cut through the mountain here. And here's your downstream. So your water is flowing through this guy, and you can do a couple of different things. And so your electricity comes in. In the case of Gordon Butte, electricity will come in from the turbines. We'll run the pump, suck it up from the lower lake and up to the upper one. Okay, well now the wind's not blowing and everyone came home and turned on all our lights. Well, let's let it run this way, generate power, and then the electricity flows backwards. And in a lot of ways, look at this thing. So as long as the sun keeps shining, the rain keeps raining, and the wind keeps blowing, you will have this energy. And you've got a pile of water sitting there at your disposal rather than relying on the pile of coal that's getting smaller and smaller all the time. Right? So we can argue about perpetual motion or not, but this is about as close as we can get to a perpetual motion machine. Yeah?
How much of that water is lost to evaporation and things like that? Do you have to recharge?
That is a good question. That definitely came up in the Gordon Butte conversations, and the evaporation losses, they happen. You could say, well, gosh, I don't want any evaporation, and I'm going to cap this thing. Well, there's additional expense, but it's going to be the same evaporation rates that you have in any other natural body of water. And they usually rate it in terms of acre inches. Mm-hmm. I think is the it's like acre inches per day or acre inch. So if you see acre inch, like, oh, what's an acre inch? Well, it's if you just grab 1 acre of this body of water, if that goes down by an inch, there's your number. And oh my gosh, I should show you these photos I took. I'll do it after the break. I was just up at Flathead Lake. It's like 12 feet below normal. I was standing on this beach, looking up. Here, I'll show you. It was a trip. Here, let me just show you. This is just yesterday, so here. Yeah. Okay. So here, this wasn't going to be the best way to do it, but so there's the dock. This big square guy sitting right here. That dock is normally right at water level. So, but it's not evaporation. It's just that the tribe controls this now. The Salish Kootenai control that. They lower it in the winter so that you're not doing a lot of dock damage. Question?
Yeah, I've heard about hydroelectric projects causing issues when, for example, Hydro-Quebec causing problems when basically they're letting out water at a time of year where water's not usually going into whatever the river comes into. So basically, warm fresh water is going into the ocean during the winter and messing up currents.
Right. Yeah. It is an issue, and there's every single technology has some downside. Yeah, it's there.
Is there a way to sort of just think about the timing of that or something like that, optimize?
You would really think so, and what was also a huge head scratcher for me is how California let that dam get so darn full. And because you could run those turbines till the lake is gone if you wanted to, and
it seems like maybe some thinking about how that's affecting natural systems is important if we're going to have these big scale projects.
Yeah.
Because, in in this case, sort of like no one really noted, like no one thought about it, and then eventually they noticed these issues and like the currents were changing and it's affecting wildlife and,
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
would be better if they thought of that sort of before.
Yeah, well, I hear you. And again, gosh, it's yeah, it's pick your poison. The energy's got to come from somewhere,
It
and
seems like that could be done in a way that makes more sense and it would still work. It's just that, like, maybe, I don't know, companies aren't thinking about that kind of thing. Anyways.
yeah, and in terms of the time of year too, I mean, one issue, and this is an issue, and you probably know that, like, for example, Northwestern Energy is required by corporate law to maximize their their bottom line. So if it's like, oh gosh, we better release some water right now, but we can't run it through the turbines because we'll blow the system, what's the choice? I mean, like, it might be the right thing to do, oh, let's let it out slowly so we don't, flood the estuary with, water of the wrong temperature, but we can't really do it because we need to save that energy. So you do get in this strange conflict between the natural environment and the artificial economy. It happens every day. Let me show you one more picture just to show you how low this was. So this little green guy sitting right here is normally at water level. So Flathead Lake is like 12 feet. 12
So
feet
are
low.
they releasing a lot of water in anticipation of like higher snowpack or?
No, it's my understanding that they let that water level get as low as it is to protect lakeshore infrastructure during the winter. It's mainly to keep those docks from getting iced in and blown over and all that kind of stuff. And you do lose a little bit of head. I mean, you lose a little bit of the pressure, the head pressure from the lake not being as high, so you might not make as much electricity, but it's relatively trivial.
So I suspect these operations are fairly vulnerable to drought, like any dam system.
Yeah, they are vulnerable to drought, absolutely. Getting back to sort of coordinating with other natural or agricultural or living systems. One other argument for the Gordon Butte project as well, we can catch a lot of that runoff in the spring that otherwise would be flooding croplands and let it out more slowly over the winter, because again, you can use this water twice, once for energy and then again for agriculture. So there's a lot of factors, and I think it might have been, it was actually in the last book, 101, where the question was raised, like, what is being optimized? And if we were in a fancy engineering design class, we would have like multiple different variables, human happiness, earth happiness, corporate happiness, et cetera, et cetera. You're always balancing those things, like what is the optimal policy so that either everybody wins or losses are minimized.
Be as pragmatic as possible.
Yeah.
I guess I sometimes wonder, like, when people are making these types of decisions, like, oh, should we let the water down to not destroy dogs, or like, should we do this? Like, how much calculations are actually made if they're actually like using some type of model to optimize that, or a lot of times it's just like, well, we think this, we're going to do it.
That's a good question. And so the question is how the decision is made, and you could look at like today's political environment, for example, and you would hope and assume that the people that make the decisions, the politicians, would actually talk to the wildlife biologist, talk to the engineer, talk to the farmer, et cetera, and combine that. Unfortunately, the world doesn't always work that way. It's just like, hey, I got to take care of my buddy over here, and so the communication channels maybe aren't as good as they might be. But I'm feeling really, Mariah, at this point in history, we've got so much social media out there, and basically, if you have a phone, you have your own channel. You can do your own reporting and influence other people's decisions. So, Yeah.
Which in some ways is good and in some ways is really bad.
Yeah.
And you have to imagine that sort of decision has to be passed down through generations of experience and hardship. Maybe in that particular instance where the winters were rough on the coastline infrastructure. So maybe somebody just went out on a whim and said, hey, this might make a difference one day, and maybe it did. So you never know if it's been in practice for a while or somebody's just got an ingenious idea. But I think we're always going to make up for our mistakes through trial and error. It's just a matter of making sure the right people get in the positions of making those decisions. So, like Bradley said, that political sphere.
Hey, see you, Daniel.
is a
Take care, man.
Nice mixing bowl of chaos.
Yeah.
Yeah, it just seems to me in like some of these cases, I don't know, like we have the sort of like computing power to make models that will weigh a lot of different factors.
Oh, yeah.
And
Yeah.
we don't necessarily do that, like, you know, obviously it's difficult to assign value to certain things, but when it's something like, do I save money if I let the water down and I produce electricity, or do I save more money if I don't let the water down and I have to pay for the dock? Like, you know,
Yeah.
some things it's pretty straightforward, and you could be sort of like optimizing that.
Yeah.
I know that
Yeah.
the Shaler scrutiny of Flathead, generally speaking, adhere to the precautionary principle. They're very
Yeah.
aware of their, but I don't know about other operations,
Yeah.
but I know specifically them,
Yeah.
they're very concerned about it.
What's the name of their energy? It's like Energy Watchers or Energy Tribe or Energy. There's a specific name for their group, but
Yeah, and it could be that, like, you know, other people that own dams are using different principles, and they're saying we're just gonna do whatever that makes the most money.
yeah.
We don't really, like, we know that we'll have these ecological effects, and we're not gonna mitigate it
Well, yeah.
because it costs more. or
Yeah.
whatever.
No, that's exactly right.
It's also an opportunity to work with nature and not against it, so to speak.
Yeah, we're dealing with something right now. My company, we just got a contract to put on a filter on a system that's going to go here in Bonner, and
Energy keepers.
Energy Keepers. Yeah, thanks. Is up there, and so we need to adhere to the law, which in this case is 1 gram of emissions per hour. But yeah, and it's going to cost more, but it allows you to stay in business. So let's look at this really quick. This is, instead of a hydroelectric, I just call this hydromechanical. So in this case, you're actually taking water that's flowing in this direction. And this is kind of cool because you've got 2 drag-based components. So these paddles are being dragged along, and meanwhile these little cups are picking up water. So this is obviously kinetic energy, sort of spinning in a circle here. You're overcoming some gravitational energy. Up comes the water, and you built a pump. You built a pump without a motor. Pretty simple. So I'll get back to this and say, gosh, this is how nice it is. Very few moving parts. There's no expensive electricity, and meanwhile you can turn this into mechanical work of grinding food. So you're kind of killing 2 birds with 1 stone here. You're irrigating the field so you can grow more corn or crops or whatever it is, and grind it up to make flour. Here's another one. In this case, you've got your chemical reactor here, your cow actually driving this around. And again, it's still, it's all, and this guy has to get fed somehow, but you can imagine the corn feeding the animal,
There's a little bowl right there.
et cetera, et cetera. Yeah. But, really no end to human creativity. So here are 3 different categories of flow. So the overshot is one where you would run water through a paddle wheel. So you're taking this linear hydrokinetic energy, turning it into rotational mechanical, again, to do whatever you might with it. Here's an undershot with a little screen, and this is more of a closed system. In each case, you've got a control gate. You can think of that control gate as basically your throttle on the system. More power, less power. So micro hydro, and we built one of these a couple of years ago. I'll show it to you after the break. It's pretty fun. All right, so here's another example. In this case, you have, instead of a shaft running about the horizontal axis, you've got the shaft running about a vertical axis, and again, it's just a turbine. As the water comes through, it goes from what we would call, if you remember from 101, this is axial flow, and it's going into radial flow. And as it comes out, it goes from this, high velocity inner, the pressure reduces, and it goes to this sort of lower velocity, lower pressure system. So, if we looked at power flow, and these guys could be as efficient as 80%, because as if we're right here in the middle, all this higher velocity water comes in. Once you get out to the edge, it's moving slowly. There's just more area as you move away from the center of the system. So again, you cannot create or destroy energy. You're moving from linear into rotational, and then kind of just out to slack energy. Okay, so 3 different types, and the book does go over the different categories of dams in the lock system in England. So low, medium, high, and if you remember our across and through variables, and they've tried to show this here. You might have very high pressure, but a skinny pipe and relatively low flow rate. You might have low pressure, but a kind of a fatter pipe and a higher flow rate, so you could have about the same power. We did some back-of-the-envelope calculations out here in the Clark Fork, and if you were to build a 1 or 2 meter high dam, right where the rapids are, right in front of the new Missoula College building is going, you could make about a megawatt. About a megawatt. So you could just about supply Bonner with all of its electricity right there. There's about 1,000 homes in Bonner, 1 kilowatt per home. So there you are. Then it gets says, oh, do I really want to dam up the Clark Fork River? Well, it happened. There was the Milltown Dam, and there were issues there. All the sludge from Butte came down, and the ice ruptured, and the arsenic flowed in, and the trout died. So there was an example of an environmental problem with it that's now been remediated. Yeah. Well, I mean, is being remediated? I don't know. I don't know all the details.
From the Clark Fork, they told me that.
Well, you're not supposed to eat fish for 15 miles down from Milltown.
Yeah. There's still some
Not a fan. You
credit.
can fish there, you're just not supposed to eat them.
Huh. Is it arsenic that's still there, or other
Yeah,
metals? Or?
arsenic.
Yeah.
Those ponds, when they overflowed, ended up in the groundwater downstream, and still leaching into the river there for like 15 miles.
Yeah.
The rapids are a lot more intense than,
Yeah.
like floating the Blackfoot, or Brazos, stuff.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, people definitely flood into it.
Right.
I've got some ideas for cleaning up the pit. I'll have to share it with you later. Yeah.
Yeah,
I'm
I can hear
wondering if
that.
there's like any way that you can sort of like, you can make hydroelectric energy, but without like creating a full dam that completely stops up the river so that it's like you're holding back the water and
Yeah.
go, like, can it be sort of like it's passing through?
I'll show you an example of one of those. Yeah, we built, well, actually, we built one 2 years ago, and we've deployed it twice, so I'll show you, yeah. There's the Hoover Dam. I don't know if you've ever been out there. It is quite impressive. I've driven across it a couple of times and seen it. This little rim here, this white rim, is basically what happens, once you dam it up, all the vegetation that was on the surface, the trees and shrubs and whatnot are dead. So this is basically the fluctuation line. And yeah, they deal with evaporation, they deal with drought, and a lot of times it's not as high as we might like. A lot of this goes right into,
Most reservoirs are low right now, or at least they were as of a year or two ago. I know there's been a lot of rain in California recently.
yeah. Yeah. Oh, so this is just showing you that if you go for every 10 meters, you go up about an atmosphere, and 1 atmosphere of pressure is 15 psi or 100 kilopascals or a tenth of a megapascal. And another thing to keep in mind, and so this is a function of water. If this were air, not the case. But the thing to think about, we're sitting here at, we're not at sea level, but we're a lot closer to sea level than if we're on, up in outer space somewhere. We're at 15 psi, 14.7 psi. That means that there is only 15 pounds of air above me on that 1 square inch. Kind of weird, but if you assume that the atmosphere is about 60 miles thick, you take a 60 mile by 1 inch cross section of air, 15 pounds of air in it. Air is 1,000 times less dense than water. So obviously for each meter, you're going up 10 atmospheres. It's almost like the atmosphere got 10 times thicker. So works out pretty nicely because water is in fact 1,000 times more dense than air. Okay, so that wraps that guy up. I'm going to show you one more little video before we round out the chapter.